After my family fell into decline, my fiancé Jiyu Jing gave me away to someone else. General Xie is a good man, live a good life with him and forget about me. I tearfully agreed on the surface, but in truth, I had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Later, when General Xie and I were deeply in love and trusted each other, Jiyu Jing suddenly went mad. Do you really not love me anymore? How could you not love me? I coldly pushed him away and rushed quickly into General Xie's embrace. Husband, I'm so scared. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. I am a fallen noblewoman from a family in decline. My betrothed, Jiyu Jing, does not look down on me and has even prepared a residence for me. Live here peacefully, and in due time, I will formally marry you with all the proper ceremonies, within just 3 days. The entire capital was praising Lord Jiyu not only for his talent and looks but also for his rare character, calling him a truly upright and honorable man. The maid, Kui Fang, also looked pleased. If the master and mistress knew in the afterlife, they would be happy for you, miss. I propped my chin on my hand, gazing at the square patch of sky in the courtyard, and did not reply, because last night, I had a dream. The courtyard at this moment, the trees in the courtyard. And even Cui Fang's words had all appeared in the dream. Let's wait for the future to unfold. Half a month later, Jiyu Jing took me to meet someone. His back was naturally straight, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, his profile cold and stern, clearly not an easy person to approach. He instructed, "That is General Xie Shi, who has just returned to the capital recently. You should speak less later to avoid displeasing the general." During the banquet, Jiyu Jing asked me to play the qin to liven up the atmosphere. I nodded in agreement and immediately played a piece titled The Phoenix Seeks Its Mate. He and Xie Shi were both taken aback for a moment, exchanging a glance. Jiyu Jing was the first to speak. "I've long heard that Miss Qin is highly skilled in playing the guqin, and after listening today, it truly lives up to the reputation." "Excellent." Xie Jing addressed me as Miss Qin, not Shua. I glanced at him, a cold smile curling at the corner of my mouth as I lowered my gaze. Xie Shi looked at me a few more times, with curiosity and a hint of interest. It was no different from the previous life. Jiyu Jing noticed his expression and showed delight. Another half-month passed, and Jiyu Jing came to find me. After hesitating for a long time, he finally spoke with eager eyes. "Do you remember General Xie, whom we met last time?" Seeing me nod, he continued, "General Xie is a good man. But it's a pity that he has been fighting for years and is now over 25 without a marriage." I poured him tea and responded, "There are so many fine ladies from good families in the capital, and the general comes from a prestigious household. Surely he won't have trouble finding a wife." Jiyu Jing sighed. "He has his eye on a young lady. It's just a pity." I didn't respond further. Looking over in confusion, Jiyu Jing hesitated before speaking, his face full of bitterness. "General Xie once saved my life. Now that he has taken a liking to something of mine, don't you think I should let him have it? It's finally come." The words I was waiting for were spoken by Jiyu Jing. "Shua, to be honest, the woman he fancies is you, since we haven't yet gone through the formalities. As the saying goes, a gentleman does not take what another desires, especially since he has done me a great favor. From now on, why don't you live a good life with him, and just forget about me?" Jiyu Jing turned his head away, pretending to be heartbroken. I blew on the tea foam and took a sip to moisten my throat. "Have you made up your mind?" Jiyu Jing suddenly looked over, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "You're not angry?" There seemed to be a hint of unwillingness in his eyes again. "My parents have both passed away. If it weren't for the Empress remembering her youthful friendship with my mother, I was afraid I might even lose my own life. I am the least qualified to be angry. In my past life, I didn't understand. I thought a promise meant commitment, believing Jiyu Jing loved and cherished me, but was forced to, because of Xie Shi's affection. So I rushed recklessly to find Xie Shi and knelt before him. "Thank you for your kindness, General, but my heart belongs only to Jiyu Jing. I beg for your understanding." Xie Shi's eyes flickered with surprise, mingled with a touch of pity. He inquired about my identity. "I am Qin Shu, and I have been betrothed to Lord Jiyu since childhood. Although my family has fallen on hard times, he still does not look down on me and allows me to stay here awaiting marriage. Thanks to the general's great favor, Lord Jiyu is unwilling to put the general in a difficult position. But I believe the general must be a reasonable person who would not force others into hardship, right?" Xie Shi stared at me for a long time. "Have you made up your mind?" I nodded firmly. "Very well. I will speak with Lord Jiyu." That night, Jiyu Jing came to my room. "Do you like me this much?" "Can't bear to be apart from me." He pressed me against the wall, the smell of alcohol hitting me, his words leaving me utterly confused. I sensed something was wrong and, fighting my discomfort, corrected him. We are engaged, so naturally we will grow old together. But he let out a cold laugh and suddenly kissed me. Ji Jing took me that night. Despite my desperate struggles, Ji Jing. This is improper, we are not yet married. Let go of me, I beg you, Ji Jing. But I couldn't push him away, only endless screams and despair. You say you love me, don't you? Since I'll be yours sooner or later, and I'll be tied to you anyway, why not give yourself to me now, Qin Shu? I'll do as you wish and give you what you want. No, this isn't what I wanted. I am like a worn-out rag, bearing his anger and indifference. A perfectly good person seemed to change overnight, as he left. He only said coldly, tomorrow, I will send someone to deliver the betrothal gifts. Since you have no parents or relatives, we'll just go through the motions. After saying that, he glanced at the crimson stain on the bed, seemingly relieved. Qin Shu, I will take responsibility. In my previous life, I married Ji Jing as I wished, but that was only the beginning of my nightmare. So, when he sat before me again and asked, aren't you angry? I found it utterly ridiculous. I shook my head. Not angry. Amid Ji Jing's look of disbelief, I added, I know you mean well, and I'm willing to go along with it for your sake. He paused for a moment, a smile spreading across his face. Shua is sensible. If life doesn't treat you well in the future, you can always come back to me. I lowered my gaze, hiding the coldness in my eyes that was almost impossible to conceal. It seems he only wants to send me away. Not as a wife, perhaps not even as a concubine. Xiesha knocked on my door, holding a box of pearl hairpins in his hand. At a glance, I could tell they were the latest style popular in the capital. If my parents were still alive, I would have owned a few of these myself. I wasn't sure what to bring you, but I thought women might like these. I invited him in for tea. Have you made up your mind? Xiesha looked at me, his expression sincere. He had very bright, piercing eyes that seemed almost aggressive when they fell upon someone. In my previous life, when I was ridiculed by others, it was he who stood in front of me and forced them to retreat. Ji Jing seized the opportunity to speak. At that time, Shua already had feelings for General Xie. I had intended to step aside for you, but Shua refused. What, have I not treated you well? Even after marrying me, you still have the heart to make eyes at General Xie. I trembled with fear and couldn't help but shrink back. Having been married to Ji Jing for only 3 years, with his deliberate spreading of rumors, I had long been regarded as little more than a prostitute in everyone's eyes. He always wore an expression of helpless indulgence and tolerance toward me, yet he spoke words that pushed me to the brink of death. So, I cannot implicate Xiesha. I must keep my distance from him, further and further away. But I had only taken a few steps to the side when I heard Xiesha's voice. Lord Ji, please be cautious with your words. The lady has not made any improper advances toward me. I've heard that Lord Ji has a reputation for doting on his wife, yet he can tolerate such slanderous talk about her. Could it be that the rumors are false? Though the words were cold, they felt like the winter sun, giving me a rare sense of kindness. The same question as in my past life. My answer remains firm. But the path ahead is entirely different. I've made up my mind. Seeing me nod, Xiesha's brows relaxed, and a smile curled at the corners of his lips. I was originally Ji Jing's fiancé. Although we never had a formal ceremony, there was a verbal engagement, and both families were aware of it. Does the general mind? Moreover, I won't be a concubine or an outside mistress, only the legal wife. The smile on Xiesha's lips froze, and he frowned in thought for a moment. Time seemed to stretch on. But fortunately, the outcome was good. In that case, I should hurry. How about tomorrow? Let the matchmaker come tomorrow. I was taken aback for a moment, but as I faced his eager expression, my heart gradually settled. The next day, not only did the matchmaker come, but Ji Jing also arrived. He watched the matchmaker leave, and his expression darkened at the sight of the courtyard filled with gifts, all sent by General Xie. Does he intend to marry you as his principal wife? I nodded and smiled at him. Thank you, brother Ji, for finding me such a good match. His expression instantly turned very unpleasant. Brother, to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, if you don't mind, from now on I will acknowledge you as my sworn brother. How about that? A complex emotion flickered in Ji Jing's eyes. But we clearly used to. That was before. Now I am General Xie's fiancé, and the formal engagement has already taken place. Ji Jing's pupils contracted, and he unconsciously took a few steps back. I'll go ask again. Ji Jing didn't believe it and turned away in embarrassment. Kui Fang looked puzzled. Lord Ji seems unhappy. I suddenly remembered that Ji Jing often mentioned in his previous life, if it weren't for you, I would have married the third daughter of the Shun family long ago. Why would I have to endure such humiliation? After marrying him, whenever things went slightly wrong, he would blame it on me. In this lifetime, I have already stepped aside for him. Why is he still unhappy? I don't understand either. 3 days later, I ran into Miss Shun on the street while shopping. Ji Jing followed behind her, laden with packages, a flattering smile plastered on his face, coming face to face. Shun Wanru glanced at Ji Jing and couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. So this is your down-and-out fiancé. Look, she sniffed you out. Shun Wanru was the legitimate daughter of the Duke's household. Standing high above others, she pinched her handkerchief and dabbed the tip of her nose, her face full of disgust. No, she is merely my sworn sister. Shun Wanru sneered. What kind of sister-in-law is this? In my opinion, she's just using it as an excuse to stay by your side. I bowed neither humbly nor arrogantly and corrected her. I am now engaged, Miss Shun, so please watch your words. Oh, and who is your fiancé? General Xie. What? Shun Wanru seemed to hear a joke and looked at me mockingly. Do you know what status Xie holds? Do you still think you're the daughter of the minister's mansion? Daydreaming. Ji Jing frowned and looked at me, saying calmly, not fit to be the main wife, but surely qualified to be a mistress. Shun Wanru was taken aback for a moment, then immediately covered her mouth and laughed. It happened that Xie was passing by on horseback and stopped before us. Shun Wanru pointed at me with a laugh. General Xie, she claims to be your fiancé. Is that true? You are usually busy with your duties, but do not let some shameless woman take advantage and ruin your reputation. If you don't mind, I can teach them a lesson for you. The crowd stopped and turned to look. Xie glanced at me, then immediately dismounted and walked over with a grim expression. Shun Wanru sneered. It seems you've had an unlucky outing today. General Xie is not someone to be trifled with by just anyone. General Xie may not be aware, but this woman is the daughter of the former minister, a child of a disgraced official. Your esteemed reputation, General, should not be tarnished by association with her. Shun Wanru bowed respectfully to Xie. Xie walked directly past her and came towards me. It might rain this afternoon. You should head back early. Shun Wanru's expression stiffened, and even Ji Jing looked surprised. I smiled at Xie. I brought an umbrella. I sent Suifang to buy some needles and thread, and I'll be heading back soon. After speaking, he glanced at Shun Wan's face, which was as purple as a pig's liver, and moved closer to Xie. I want to make you some clothes. If you have time, come to my place so I can take your measurements. Xie stiffened and abruptly turned his head to look. Soon, that stern face melted like ice and snow, brimming with tenderness. All right, I'll head over after my shift ends. After hesitating for a moment, he added, I wonder if I could also join you for dinner. I raised an eyebrow and nodded in agreement. Are you really? Shun Wanru's face turned pale as she stammered out a reply. If I recall correctly, in my past life, the Shun family intended to marry Shun Wanru to Xie, but for some reason, it never came to fruition. General Xie, surely you haven't been deceived by her. Shun Wanru's abrupt voice interrupted my train of thought, naturally drawing Xie's attention as well. He looked over. Shun Wanru immediately reined in her emotions, a gentle and carefree smile gracing her face. I have already exchanged formalities with Miss Qin. She is now my fiancée, so I must ask Miss Shun to choose her words carefully. Shun Wanru's smile froze on her face as she glared at me, still unwilling to yield. But she. If I hear that Miss Shun has troubled Shua again, this general will have to pay a visit to your residence and ask Lord Shun how his legitimate daughter could be so lacking in manners. Before she could finish, Xie added. The tone was cold and carried a sharp edge. Shun Wanru pressed her lips together, retreating a few steps as if in a daze, then turned and left in anger. It was rare to see her like this, and I suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction. In my previous life, after I married Ji Jing, he still spent most of his time by Shun Wanru's side. Shun Wanru often came to our residence. Every time she visited, I couldn't avoid a round of fuss. Wanru likes the walnut cookies you make, so make some more tonight. I froze. But the walnuts need. Ji Jing looked at me coldly. Find a way. Isn't the Qin family's daughter known for her gentleness and grace? How could she lack the manners to treat a guest? I wanted to say that walnuts need to be shelled fresh. But Ji Jing had dismissed all the maids around me. Last time, it was Shun Wanru who suddenly wanted to eat them, and I peeled so many that my fingers swelled up. They had just gone down a few days ago. After that, I often kept peeled walnuts on hand, but Shun Wanru only took one bite and pushed them away. Not fresh. If you don't want me to come, just say so. Why resort to such tricks? After saying this, he looked at Ji Yujing with a pitiful expression. Did I make her unhappy? Ji Yujing swept the walnut cookies off the table and glared at me sharply. Your mind is impure, always resorting to underhanded tricks. I think you'd better not eat today. Reflect on your actions. For the next whole month, he didn't give a single penny of the already meager household allowance. You should learn your lesson. So, I ate nothing but greens and tofu for a month. Xiesha hadn't arrived yet in the evening, but Ji Yujing came first. At that time, I was busy in the kitchen with Kui Fang and was a bit surprised to see him suddenly. What brings you here? Ji Yujing frowned. After all, I'm the one who rented this courtyard for you. Can't I come? His tone was displeased, and I snapped back to reality. How much silver did it cost? I'll pay you back. Ji Yujing let out a scornful laugh. Now that you've climbed to a higher branch, you really do stand a lot taller. You don't actually think Xiesha would marry you, do you? To pass up the legitimate daughter of a prominent family in the capital and choose a down-and-out like you, what is he after? Even though she had long known he was such a person, the words still stung deeply, because what Ji Yujing said was the truth. Why, what is Xiesha after? Then, these days I've been thinking, but I just can't figure it out. He is the rising star of the capital, not to mention me now. Even if the Ministry of Personnel hadn't fallen, he might not have looked my way. Sure. Be sensible and call off the engagement with him. I looked at her in surprise. Why? Ji Yujing turned his head away. In any case, if you call off the engagement, I might consider continuing our betrothal. He said it as if it were a favor. It was so grating that I could no longer care about propriety and replied coldly, what if I don't call off the engagement? You? Ji Yujing looked at her with a complicated gaze and added, we grew up together and have shared over a decade of affection. Isn't this all just an act to make me see? I admit, introducing you to General Xie was an impulse at the time. Now I regret it. With your family background, becoming a general's wife will only bring you endless hardships. Qin Shu, must you make things so ugly? I let out a cold laugh. He, Ji Yujing, is well aware of the years of affection between us. Back then, the parents of both families were on good terms and arranged a marriage for their children while they were still infants. Later, the Qin family rose steadily in status, until my father became a minister of the board. Although the Jiyu family had also enjoyed glory, they later had a good-for-nothing second uncle who was repeatedly reprimanded by the emperor. Gradually, they were left with only the reputation of a noble house and faded out of the capital's circle of fame and fortune. Father values loyalty and has repeatedly said, if you marry into their family in the future, you must not act arrogantly. Don't let them think our Qin family looks down on him. I think Ji Yujing treats you quite well, so you should also take the initiative more often. He was afraid of hurting Ji Yujing's fragile self-esteem, and even when offering help, he did so through others. In return, when my family fell into decline, he pushed me to someone else, to be a concubine, or even a mistress. Lord Jiyu, are you here for me, or did the third young lady of the Shen family send you to deliver a message? Ji Yujing's expression changed slightly, and he frowned, saying, if we're talking about status and position, even in appearance and demeanor, you are no match for her. Heh, but what can be done? It's me that General Xie wants. Ji Yujing's face flushed with anger. Why can't you understand what's good for you? I said. If you really have the ability, go find Xiesha and make him call off the engagement. I cut Ji Yujing off, and he looked visibly frustrated. What do you want from me? A sudden voice interrupted, and both Ji Yujing and I turned to look. Xiesha had changed into casual clothes and was carrying a food box. Seeing us looking, he handed the item to Kui Fang, then turned his gaze back to Ji Yujing. Ji Yujing avoided eye contact, mustering the courage to clasp his hands and say, it's truly a misunderstanding. Shua is actually my betrothed wife. General Xie has only met her once, so naturally he doesn't understand. She is not worthy of you. Then he looked at me again. I never expected you to be someone who would stop at nothing to climb the social ladder. If you come to your senses from now on, I'll let bygones be bygones. But after all, it's just not respectable. If Uncle Qin knew of this in the afterlife, he would surely be heartbroken. I let out a scornful laugh and spoke, to Ji Yujing's utter astonishment. Wasn't it you who asked me to consider General Xie? Utter nonsense. Ji Yujing suddenly flared up, raising his voice. General Xie. Don't be deceived by her. I never had such intentions. That day, I just wanted to take her out for some fresh air. So, Xiesha frowned deeply and interrupted him. But Lord Jiyu did indeed ask this general about his thoughts on Miss Qin. That was only because I wanted the general to help me make a decision. I trust the general and regard you as an elder brother, hoping to hear your opinion. Xiesha's face darkened. Ji Jing let out a bitter laugh. I didn't expect it to lead to such a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. Then he started blaming me again. Sure, if you had told me earlier that you wanted to attach yourself to a better family, I wouldn't have insisted. But what kind of person is General Xie? He is not someone you can aspire to. His ability to argue irrationally is truly eye-opening. In my past life, it was with just a few words like these that he twisted the truth, leaving me unable to voice my grievances. In my previous life, after I offended Shen Wanru, Ji Jing wanted to vent her anger and please her. Not only did he cut off my household allowance, but he also locked the family storeroom and took away my keys to manage the household. Any servant or maid in the mansion who spoke to me was immediately sold off. I became an invisible person in the mansion. For the first month, I could still barely afford some greens and tofu with the little silver I had. Later, I had no choice but to pawn my hairpin. Just then, I happened to run into Ji Jing coming out of a tavern with his classmates. His face turned cold. Is my vast marquisate not grand enough to support you? What do you mean by doing this? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass me? I stood there in shock, instinctively trying to explain. This is my own hairpin. I didn't. Qin Shu. Ji Jing closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his eyes were filled with rage. Who did you give the household allowance I gave you to? I stood there, dumbfounded. Who did you give it to? He didn't give me household expenses, didn't give me control over the household, didn't grant me any authority as the mistress. Before I even knew what he intended to do, he already wore an expression of grief and indignation. You gave it to the groom, didn't you? You think I don't know? Today, aren't you just forcing me to submit and humiliating me? Fine, I'd rather ruin my reputation for Ji Jing than let you have your way. His eyes reddened, and he turned to leave, leaving the crowd exchanging bewildered glances. All the eyes on me were filled with disgust. From then on, I became the ungrateful, lowly woman in the rear residence. I explained, I don't know any groom, and he didn't give me any money. No one would believe it, they would only think I was full of lies. No wonder Lord Ji was often short on money when drinking with us. It turns out she was the one squandering it. A woman like this should have been divorced long ago. Drowning her in a pond wouldn't be too harsh. You may not know this, but the Ji and Qin families were originally old friends. Lord Ji values loyalty and didn't want to make things too ugly. Who would have thought that such a shrew would escalate things to this extent, pushing honest people into a corner with no way out? They all advised Ji Jing to divorce me. Even I begged him to divorce me, but he just wouldn't. He even flaunted me around in public. If I refused, even uglier rumors would spread. All he had to do was put on a helpless expression at banquets and say a few discouraging words. Everyone could easily imagine many unconventional and rebellious things, but if I went, I would become an easy target for their bullying. Shen Wanru smiled and mentioned how delicious the walnut cookies I made were. Next time you have a chance, make some more for everyone to try. Someone immediately sneered. It's too dirty. Better let the cook from my household do it. At least it'll be clean. Shen Wanru covered her lips with a laugh, her eyes brimming with smugness. But rumors are like knives. Each word scraping against my skin, not fatal, yet leaving me bleeding profusely. Ji Jing would then glance at me. Go apologize to Miss Shen. I didn't know what I had done wrong, but under the teasing and mocking gazes of everyone, I felt as if Mount Tai were pressing down on me, with nowhere to escape. Of course, I resisted. The result of resistance was Ji Jing's hurt expression. You've let me down so much. It was the public condemnation. Ungrateful. Lord Ji is such an honest and sincere person who has done his best to protect her. What more could she possibly be dissatisfied with? If you ask me, she deserves a beating, that wretched woman. So, I endured it silently, without any dignity, all just to save enough money to leave. By chance, I ran into Xiesha again. I know you're not that kind of person. Is there anything you need me to do for you? He asked with restrained politeness. I shook my head in refusal and told him. Just wait another half-month, and I'll have saved enough silver to leave. I am not a pushover who just takes whatever comes my way. It's just that in this era, I have no way to make my voice heard, but my parents used everything they had to protect my life, and I cannot waste it on Ji Jing. I must leave. However, my encounter with Xiesha was witnessed by Shen Wanru. From then on, they said Xiesha had also become one of my admirers. Shen Wanru publicly cut off all ties with Xiesha. Who would have thought General Xie would also be blinded by such a person? I value myself too much to stay close. Ji Jing was overjoyed by Shen Wanru's attitude and became even more attentive in his pursuit, but upon seeing me, a flash of malice quickly passed through his eyes. Ji Jing didn't know that every moment since my rebirth, I had been reflecting. His words, which twisted right and wrong, had been rehearsed in my mind thousands of times. So, as he breathed a sigh of relief, I said coldly, "You claim to have a marriage arrangement with me, but is there a matchmaker?" His expression went blank for a moment before he replied in a deep voice, "Our families are on good terms, and the engagement is widely known, though we haven't formally invited a matchmaker yet." I chuckled softly. I said it before. Lord Gu keeps talking about marrying me, yet he hasn't even sent a matchmaker. What? Does Qin Shu deserve to be treated so poorly by you? He was about to speak, but I cut him off first. "I am grateful for your taking me in and promise to repay the silver, but why must you ruin my reputation?" The preconceived impression was masterfully employed by Ji Jingyun, and this is what I learned from him. Seeing him looking so deflated, my eyes welled up with tears. "I only regarded you as an elder brother, never expecting you to harbor such intentions. That day, I thought you were guiding me to meet the general, and I was even grateful for it." But, with a troubled expression, I stubbornly lifted my head. "Although I have lost both my parents, I am blessed by Her Majesty the Queen's grace, and I dare not belittle myself or degrade myself to the point of offering myself to you. If you, sir, intend for me to follow you without status or recognition, I would rather die today to preserve my pure reputation." "You, Qin Shu, that's not what I meant." Ji Jing was furious. I gave a bitter smile and looked at Xie again, forcing a cheerful expression as I said, "Today, I've made a fool of myself in front of General Xie, which was never my intention. I will move out from here today, and from now on, I will sever all ties with Lord Gu." I turned away resolutely, but someone grabbed my wrist. When I turned around, Xiesha had already let go. He stood in front of me, speaking coldly to Ji Jing. Lord Gu must have heard Shu's words. "It's no wonder the esteemed Marquis's household is gradually declining, bullying a lone girl like this. She has already told me everything between you and her. There's no need for Lord Gu to stir up trouble, without parental consent, without a matchmaker's word, and without the exchange of betrothal gifts or birth charts. You insist she is your fiancé. Are you trying to ruin her reputation?" Ji Jing's face turned deathly pale, too shocked to speak. Xiesha didn't wait for his reply and ordered his attendants to drive him away. "I have bought this house, and Shu's home is not welcome to you. Please leave." Ji Jing was almost forced to leave, looking utterly disheveled. He turned back several times, trying to read something from my expression, but my gaze was fixed on Xiesha. I thought that after what happened today, Xiesha would back down. I had long made plans to leave, in my previous life. It was because I held expectations for Ji Jing and made my plans too late that I fell into the trap. "I'm hungry. Is there any food for me?" Xiesha's lips curled into a smile, and his eyes curved like a pair of crescent moons hanging in the sky, bright and clear. I nodded instinctively. Kui Fang had been keeping an eye on the situation and promptly served the dishes onto the table upon hearing this. All of these were made by the young lady herself. The general is truly in for a treat today. Xiesha smiled and walked inside. Only then did I notice that what he had brought was the roast chicken from Zui Xionglu. It had already been taken out by Cuifang and placed on the table, filling the room with its aroma. This was something I often ate when I was at the minister's residence. Memories flooded my heart all at once, and I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat. Xiesha placed a chicken drumstick in my bowl. "I went late today and bought the last one at a high price from someone else. Give it a try." "Okay." We ate our meal quietly and drank some tea afterward. The winter sky darkened early, and outside, lanterns and candles were lit as snowflakes drifted down in a gentle flurry. I recall the night of my death in my previous life. It was also such a harsh winter. I had saved up silver coins for several years, hiding them under the bed. Before leaving, I first inquired about where Kui Fang had been sold, and spent 10 taels of silver to redeem her freedom. "Wait for me under the 3rd pillar at the city gate tomorrow at noon. If you are willing, you can call me sister and return to my hometown with me. If not, you are free to leave, but I currently have no status and need your help for a while. Are you willing?" Kui Fang nodded with reddened eyes. "Wherever you go, miss, I will follow." But that day, I couldn't make it to our appointment. Ji Jing came to see me that evening. He sat for a long time, until midnight, when it began to snow outside. Silently, Ji Jing's voice was faint. "You know, the one I've always liked is the 3rd daughter of the Shen family." I nodded. "If you're willing, you can give me a letter of divorce. With a divorce letter, Kui Fang and I would have an easier time on the road, and we could even settle our household registration in the capital before leaving." I even hoped Ji Jing would agree, but he gave me a complicated look. "I can't. Forget it, it's late, you should rest, sir. I don't expect it to be easy, it's just a bit more difficult. But as soon as I stood up, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. I looked at him in disbelief. Ji Jing's eyes were red. Don't blame me, he looked at the teacup on the table. And only then did I realize that he had waited so long for me to succumb to the poison. He wants me dead. Why? I can't understand it. Ji Jing closed his eyes, his face filled with sorrow. If I divorce you, they will surely think I'm feigning deep affection, and the Qin family has old allies in the court. I don't want to bear a bad reputation. Since you're already ruined now, why not? Why not just do this for me? Losing a wife sounds better than divorcing one. And besides, his gaze fell on my skirt, already stained with bright red, and a flicker of madness flashed in his eyes. And besides, since you died because of another man, it will only enhance my reputation. By then, it will be acceptable even in the Empress's presence. Ji Jing, I beg you, save me. I knelt on the ground, only wanting to live. I clutched the hem of his robe. I will leave tomorrow. Just consider me dead. I will never appear again in the future. Alright, it hurts. Sticky blood is flowing out of my body. I feel my body growing heavier bit by bit. I really won't cause you any trouble. I won't dare to do it again. Ji Jing, for the sake of our family's long-standing friendship, please don't let me die. But he pried my fingers open one by one, gave me a deep look, then turned and left. Outside was empty and desolate, the cold wind rushing in, but I could no longer feel the cold. My body was discovered early the next morning. The physician said I had died from a miscarriage and excessive blood loss. Ji Jing collapsed to the ground in despair, muttering to himself, but I was staying at the estate 3 months ago. Rumors exploded throughout the capital. Shun Wanru cast a disgusted glance at my corpse. What is so good about you that General Xie would even glance at you twice? A filthy wretch. Throw her into the unmarked burial ground. My soul followed those people and saw my own body wrapped in a straw mat and thrown out. Ji Jing never showed up throughout the entire ordeal. Finally, it was Xieshe who collected my body and buried me. Only after finding peace did my soul dissipate, but unexpectedly, I opened my eyes again. Reborn before marrying Ji Jing, what are you thinking about? Xieshe's voice pulled me back to reality, and I looked over at him. I was wondering how someone of General Xie's stature could take a liking to me. Xieshe was taken aback for a moment, his expression instantly turning serious. Why can't you see it? The daughter of the minister's household is both talented and virtuous, excelling in both social grace and domestic skills, long renowned throughout the capital. The decline of your family's fortunes is not your fault, it's merely being swept up by the tides of power, a twist of fate. You see my family's high status today, with everyone flocking to us, but if the Xie family were to face downfall someday, would you still think yourself unworthy of me? Or perhaps, you would leave me because of this. I froze, then slowly shook my head. That's it then. When the Jiyu family fell into decline, your father stepped in to help many times. I believe the daughter of Lord Qin must be a good person. Now that I've seen it, I truly feel it's wonderful. He leaned a bit closer to my side, a smile playing at the corners of his eyes. The chill from the past life was swept away in an instant. It felt as if my heart was filled with warmth. Like the glorious sunlight after a heavy snowfall, direct and passionate, colorful and brilliant. With that said, do you feel a bit more at ease? I nodded slowly. He added, don't pay attention to what others say. Just remember, even if the Qin family is no longer glorious, you are still Qin Shu. The Qin family is an accessory on your splendid attire, but it does not represent all of you. If others think you're not good enough, they simply don't know how to appreciate you. I was stunned by his passion and boldness, yet my heart warmed at such directness. He is the one who offers help in times of need. It has always been. My wedding with Xie Hui is set for after the beginning of spring. He specifically went to the Empress to request it. The Empress bestowed Shu brocade and numerous gold, silver, and jewels, and sent word saying, "This is my gift to you for your dowry. I am very happy that General Xie values you," with just a short sentence. The rumors about me in the capital were completely dispelled. Even Shun Wanru dared not cause any more trouble. Later, Fang said, I heard it was General Xie who specifically requested it. He said the young lady now has no one to rely on, all alone and helpless. So he pleaded before Her Majesty the Empress. How could he be so bold? I cried out in alarm. The friendship between the Empress and my mother only extended to protecting my life and my innocence, in my previous life. Marrying Jiyu Jingsha didn't bring the glory it does now, Xie Shijing, Fang said with a grin. All of this is for the young lady. You have no idea how many rumors the third young lady of the Shen family has been secretly spreading. She even claimed that you were the one who actively pursued General Xie, offering yourself to him, and weren't even fit to be a concubine." As she spoke, her face once again filled with indignation. I lowered my head, sewing clothes for Xiesha, and merely chuckled softly at her words. "Don't worry, she will get her comeuppance." I saw Shen Wanru again during the Lantern Festival. The scene was rather brutal. In the crowd, I struggled to suppress the urge to applaud. She saw Shen Wanru being dragged onto the high platform by a woman, and before she could react, a slap had already landed on her face. It was originally a lantern riddle activity prepared for the Lantern Festival, and the scene was filled with people craning their necks to watch the spectacle. "What are you doing? Who are you?" Shen Wanru cried out in alarm. The woman grabbed her by the arm and shoved her forward. "Everyone, come and see. This is the legitimate daughter of the Duke's household, the third young miss of the Shen family, Shen Wanru. How about it? Isn't she pretty? Such a delicate young lady. What's wrong with you? Why must you go and seduce a married man?" Shen Wanru's face turned deathly pale as she panicked and stepped back, trying to cover her face. The woman abruptly pulled her hand away and said angrily, "What? You dare to do it but not own up to it? Oh my, I saw how bold you were when writing that letter, calling him brother over and over. Anyone who didn't know better would think you were a prostitute from the red light district." The more Shen Wanru tried to cover up, the more the other party pulled at her. By the time the Shen family came on stage to rescue her, she had completely lost her composure, glaring at the other person with reddened eyes. "You just wait, my father won't let you get away with this. Haha." The woman laughed heartily twice, with her hands on her hips. "You have the guts to do it, but not the guts to admit it. Huh, someone, bring the gongs and drums, and send Miss Shen back to file a complaint." As soon as the words fell, indeed, 3 or 5 burly men came forward. Fierce and intimidating, clearly not to be trifled with. "Is there no law left? Go report to the authorities. Go." Shen Wanru's words choked in her throat, because her father, Duke Shen, immediately slapped her other cheek. "Shameless disgrace. Someone, take the young lady away." Shen Wanru was dragged away before she even had a chance to cry. The woman snorted coldly. "What fine upbringing the Duke's household has. I sincerely apologize, my daughter is mischievous. But it was only in jest and never crossed the line. I beg your highness to investigate clearly. Yes, today she flirts with this young master, tomorrow she flirts with that married man. Everyone in the capital knows that the third Miss Shen has countless suitors. Lord Jiyu Jing gave away his own fiancé for her sake, and the second son of the Wang family spent a fortune to buy a hairpin for her amusement, only to find himself unable to afford medicine for his ailing mother. By the way, I heard that just a few days ago, she even caused young Master Chen of the Chen family to fall into the water while trying to save her, and is still bedridden at home. Lord Shen Guogong keeps calling her unruly but insists she's never overstepped. Does stripping naked and lying in the same bed not count as overstepping?" Lord Shen Guogong's face turned extremely grim, but he dared not utter another word. "Forget it, I can't be bothered with the affairs of the Duke's residence. Just remember, if she ever sees me in the future, she'd better keep her head down." With that, she clapped her hands, turned around, and walked away. Duke Shen's face darkened, and with a single glance, the guards of the residence began to drive people out, but rumors spread like a flood, and Shen Wanru's reputation was completely ruined. In the past, she was flamboyant and radiant, making the other women feel uncomfortable, yet they had no outlet for their frustration. This time, she provoked someone she shouldn't have and was severely taught a lesson. There were plenty in the capital who were quick to kick someone when they were down. The next day, the princess brought Princess Chang'an to my residence to express their gratitude. Princess Chang'an was charming and lovely, and she respectfully handed me a cup of tea. "Thank you, sister." I hurriedly glanced at the princess, and only after seeing her nod did I accept it. In my previous life, the second year after I married Jiyu Jing, the princess of Chang'an took her own life at the Chu residence. Shen Wanru, however, came to Jiyu Jing in tears, saying, "I'm so scared. Just because young Master Chu gave me a pearl flower, she got jealous and pushed me to the ground. I didn't even blame her for anything. But she couldn't get over it and ended up taking her own life. Now the princess wants to hold the Chu family accountable, and I don't know if I'll be implicated. She sure knows how to pick a place to cry." Jiyu Jing happened to have a classmate in the Ministry of Justice at the time, and with the princess enraged, the man surnamed Chu was subjected to severe torture. That very night, news came that the princess's son-in-law could not endure it and died in prison. From beginning to end, The princess never knew why the Princess of Chang'an had been so distraught. After being reborn, I specifically had Kui Fang inquire about that man surnamed Chu. Only then did I realize he had already crossed paths with Shen Wanru, but Shen Wanru looked down on his status, so she only kept him on a string, occasionally offering a few words of comfort. Half a month ago, I prayed at Puji Temple. I know I can't compare to the legitimate daughter of the Shen family, but she clearly already has the top scholar Chu, so why is she still entangled with Ji Jing? This immediately caught the attention of the princess's maidservants. Shen Wanru acted discreetly, but she couldn't deceive the princess who grew up in the streets. The princess had only been found and brought back to the royal family just before her coming-of-age ceremony, and she had seen many people even more despicable than Shen Wanru. She knew best how to deal with her. After drinking Princess Chang'an's tea, I also knelt on the ground. I, too, had intentions of taking advantage of the princess in this matter. I beg for your forgiveness. She looked at me deeply and helped me up. I understand the hardships women face. Chang'an is simple-minded. This incident will serve as a lesson for her. You should keep in touch more often in the future. She's been spoiled by me. Princess Chang'an blushed, somewhat unconvinced, yet she dared not defy. I nodded slowly, and somehow, I was reminded of my mother, when she was still alive. I was just as carefree as the princess, not worrying about anything. Very well, this is the princess's good fortune. The princess did not stay long, leaving behind many jewels and accessories when she departed. Consider it as an addition to your dowry. On the wedding day, she even made a grand show of having her subordinates send gifts. Xiesha looked at me with a surprised expression. My understanding of my wife is still not deep enough. My face flushed, and I explained in a low voice. I was the one who told her about what happened during the Lantern Festival last time. Xiesha was taken aback for a moment. Next time, could you rely on me a bit? I can handle things too. After saying this, he thought of something and added, not necessarily to physically confront Miss Shen, but there are other methods I can use. Clearly, he also recalled the princess's approach that day, something not even most men, let alone respectable women, could have managed. But who could blame the princess, raised in the streets and long known for her fiery temper? Qin Shu, a familiar voice called out. Ji Jing had somehow made his way to the backyard, his gaze fixed on me in a daze, his face full of that nauseating infatuation. Xiesha looked displeased, so I quickly patted his hand. It's a day of celebration. He snapped back to reality and immediately smiled. Okay, with just one glance, Ji Jing was taken into custody. General Xie, what is the meaning of this? I am, after all, an official appointed by the court. Didn't you hear what my wife just said? On such a joyous day, I don't want to hear any barking. Ji Jing's mouth was stuffed with a cloth gag. Silence fell instantly. I went with Xiesha to perform the wedding ceremony and then entered the bridal chamber. It wasn't until the sun was high in the sky that Kui Fang brought up what had happened the day before. Lord Jiyu got drunk, was robbed of his silver by a few ruffians, and had his leg broken. This morning, officials from the capital prefecture came to inquire about it, but our general directly drove them away. Xie happened to be returning from outside. I had them take action only after midnight, so rest assured, madam. After speaking, he naturally wrapped his arms around me and buried his face against me. I hurriedly tried to push him away, then glanced at Kui Fang. Kui Fang was startled and quickly turned around to close the door. What are you making a fuss about in broad daylight? I kept a stern face, but Xiesha looked up blankly, a faint mist rising in his eyes. I'm not making a fuss, I'm just smelling your scent. I was at a loss for words, but he took the chance to kiss me on the lips. They said you didn't eat much this morning. Were you tired from last night? Startled, I hurriedly covered his mouth. I turned my head away and shook it gently twice. Really? Xiesha's eyes lit up, and I, struck by a sudden inspiration, quickly nodded again. I'm tired, too tired to even eat, but if I had known he would insist on feeding me, I would have bitten off my tongue rather than say those words. Xiesha is perfect in every way, except he clings a bit too tightly. Even his colleagues teased him. The general has a lovely wife at home, not like us. Xiesha nodded hurriedly. Yes, so in the future, if there's nothing important, don't bother me, general. With that, he ran out. Seeing me standing at the door, dumbfounded and blushing, his gaze fell on my food box, and his eyes were filled with delight. What's that delicious smell? It smells so good. Everyone in the room turned to look, and I had no idea where to go. Just as I turned around, Xiesha pulled me into his embrace. Go away, no sense of tact, kill the dog. The crowd wailed and scattered in a panic. I met Ji Jing again half a year after my marriage. He hadn't been doing well during those 6 months. Kui Fang often told me about his encounters as if they were jokes. The third young lady of the Shun family was sent to a nunnery by the Duke's residence, but she managed to escape on the way. I heard she went to seek help from Lord Jiyu. Lord Jiyu pretended to take her in, but then immediately reported her to the Duke's residence. Furious, the third young lady of the Shun family scolded Lord Jiyu, saying that he had only taken her in because she was helpless and easy to bully, intending to use her to advance his own career. But then she caught the eye of General Xie, who is an upright man, and that dashed Lord Gu's hopes. After this incident, even the Empress in the palace could not stand by idly, and the Emperor issued an edict to strip the Jiyu family of their noble title. Jiyu Jing, once renowned throughout the capital for his benevolence and integrity, now found himself abandoned by all when his fortunes fell. Now, upon meeting again, he appeared gaunt and his gaze was unfocused. When his eyes settled on me, there was a glimmer of hope and light in them. Sure, you do like me, don't you? You were just disappointed in me, so you found someone else to lean on. You're right, it's my fault, I shouldn't have treated you that way. You were my wife, and I belittled you, caused your death. Though they flatter me to my face, they actually look down on me. It's all my fault, I shouldn't have been so misguided and taken the wrong path, he muttered to himself, but it sent chills down my spine. I hurriedly stepped back, but he charged forward recklessly. I turned around and bumped right into Xiesha's arms. Husband, I don't know what he's talking about, I'm so scared. Jiyu Jing glared fiercely at Xiesha. Qin Shu is my wife. General Xie, seizing another man's wife is hardly the act of a gentleman. Xiesha's face darkened, unwilling to waste words on him, and he directly ordered his men to seize him. Shua, Qin Shu, I was wrong, please forgive me, I promise I won't harm you again. Jiyu Jing's voice gradually faded into the distance. I nestled in Xiesha's arms, watching coldly as he struggled with a pained expression. Later, it was heard that Jiyu Jing had died by banging his head against the prison wall. Before his death, he kept murmuring, yes, death means a chance to start over. If I could do it again, I would know exactly what to do. He was dead. Silently, my good life has just begun. The end. The second story. I was raised to be the crown princess since I was a child. At 16, I was officially named the crown princess. At 17, I gave birth to Mu Rongyu. Mu Rongyu and Mu Chen are very similar, always silent and not very close to me. Every night in the past, I would cook a bowl of osmanthus soup for them, but on this day, Mu Chen accidentally knocked over the bowl, and Mu Rongyu secretly poured out the osmanthus soup. Suddenly, I felt that such a life was utterly meaningless. The moment I handed the divorce letter to Mu Chen, he frowned and asked me unhappily, are you really that narrow-minded? Yes, I am indeed like that. Do you want Mu Rongyu to be motherless and become the laughingstock of others? Mu Chen resumed his usual cold demeanor, as if handling someone else's family affairs. He has always been like this. I sat in the side chair, no different from any other guest who came to visit him, and spoke calmly. He is of royal blood. After the separation, he has nothing to do with me. I still have some properties under my name, which I'll leave to him. Consider it compensation for him. Mu Rongyu is of royal bloodline and the eldest legitimate son. If nothing unexpected happens, he will be the next crown prince. From the moment he was born, he was destined to drift apart from me. Mu Chen looked at me with a faint gaze, as if he didn't understand why I wanted a divorce. In his eyes, I seemed more like I was making a fuss over nothing. Qingyu, if it's because of what happened last night that you're upset, I apologize to you. I still looked at him without showing any emotion. You know, I was drunk last night. I didn't mean to treat you that way, if it comes to it. I'll just drink every day from now on, he explained patiently, always placing himself in a superior position. Mu Chen came back very late last night. I waited for him half the night and was woken by the creaking sound of him opening the door. All the servants had been sent to rest, so I had to put on my cloak and fetch water from the kitchen for him to wash up. I brought him the osmanthus porridge that had been prepared earlier, in the past. Although our feelings for each other couldn't be called particularly good, we at least treated each other with respect and kept up appearances. Last night, I couldn't help but ask, why is the scent of powder on you so strong? Muchen suddenly threw the osmanthus porridge onto the ground. I didn't react in time, and the splattered osmanthus porridge covered me all over. The warmth created by the candlelight was abruptly shattered, startling many in the silent courtyard. Mu Chen's expression was filled with impatience, and the atmosphere around him instantly turned cold. With a stern face, he admonished me, Zhu Qingyu, you've crossed the line. In the future, there's no need to wait for me, nor prepare osmanthus soup for me, and my son, who had been woken up by the noise, also secretly poured out the Osmanthus pudding after seeing his father's action. When I discovered it, he stood at the door and said to me with the same lack of emotion, "Mother, if father won't drink it, I don't want to drink it either. From today on, there's no need to prepare my share." In the eyes of the father and son, this was just a trivial matter. I shouldn't have made such a fuss, let alone mentioned reason. I couldn't explain all this to them. After all, it's the Crown Prince's marriage contract. Whether it's a divorce or a dismissal, it must be decided by the Emperor. On the third day of the lunar month, the Empress Dowager's birthday, seeing me troubled, she asked me to stay. I told her my decision truthfully and in detail. The Empress Dowager remained silent for a long time. How could I know if she was on my side or concerned about her grandson? A day after that, Mu Chen and I were summoned by the Emperor. "The Empress Dowager came to me recently and advised me to grant you a divorce. What are your thoughts on this matter?" "Father, this was entirely my idea." Mu Chen spoke up before I could. I was somewhat surprised, as it had always been like this in the past. We were not in love, yet he fulfilled his duties as a husband, always protecting me in front of others. "Is that so? I see you two are quite close." The Emperor implied his disagreement. "Your Majesty, my family is stationed in the northern desert. A month ago, my uncle and second brother died on the battlefield. A few days ago, my eldest brother wrote, hoping I would join them at the front lines to reunite. I beg your Majesty to grant this wish." The person beside Yu Guangzhong seemed to stiffen for a moment. In the end, the Emperor agreed, considering my family's generations of loyalty and sacrifice. "From this document onward, our bond as husband and wife is severed, and we go our separate ways. May we each cherish our own paths hereafter. With no further interference between us." The imperial seal is stamped, with the Emperor's personal handwriting. The marriage certificate and the divorce decree overlap, marking the end of my life confined within the palace walls. As I left, Mu Chen calmly discussed many details about the division of land deeds. I didn't pay much attention, nor did I really care. "A small linen backpack holds all my belongings." He looked down at me. "Zhu Qingyu, we depart the day after tomorrow. There's no need for you to rush to move out. You can stay here, no one will gossip." I looked at this man who still showed no emotion. Calmly, I replied with the words he once said. "It's better for me to be straightforward and clear, so as not to tarnish His Highness the Crown Prince's reputation." "Reputation? Where are you planning to go these days? Let the servants escort you." "No need," I refused. "Have the servants clear out my things. It wouldn't be good if misunderstandings arise in the future." As the Crown Prince, Mu Chen's side could not remain vacant. "If in the future another woman of influence comes, do not quarrel over the things I left behind." As I stepped out the door, I paused to think. I turned to look at Mu Rongyu standing in the courtyard and sighed, saying, "From now on, I am no longer your mother. You must listen to your teacher's words." It was also a way to give an account of my role as a mother. With that, I turned and walked away. That little baby I held in my arms night after night has still grown up exactly as they envisioned. I thought my son would never inherit the cold indifference of the royal family, but the truth has proven me wrong. After leaving the imperial palace, I went to the horse market and bought a white horse. I decided to head north all the way, to the northern deserts. At the age of 10, I was sent to the imperial palace and told by the Empress Dowager that I would one day marry the crown prince. A future crown princess had to learn a great many rituals, and the matron by the Empress Dowager's side took me to various lessons every day. Mornings were for etiquette, afternoons for reading. My freedom was restricted the moment I entered the palace walls, with no power to choose. At the age of 10, I entered the palace and intruded into the lives of Mu Chen and his group as an outsider. Naturally, ignorant of all the rituals, I was ostracized, and they exhausted all their efforts to tease me. Until I was conferred the title of crown princess, apart from some necessary banquets in the palace, Mu Chen never took me to any small gatherings among friends. The time we met was probably every night when I waited for the father and son to return home, and before they went to bed, I would serve them a bowl of Osmanthus soup. In autumn, the Osmanthus tree I had planted with my own hands in the courtyard was full of blossoms. A rich fragrance filled the entire palace, faintly sweet and cloying. I often stand under the tree, taking deep breaths when no one is around. The nobles and royals all say that the Empress Dowager has trained me well, turning a mischievous girl into a well-mannered and virtuous wife. She is simply a natural-born crown princess. With my family background, I am worthy of the crown prince's status and can also serve his life well. Many ministers sent their daughters to the Empress Dowager's palace to study. There were many coming and going. But only I stayed here all along, Mu Chen's friend said. The crown princess is good, but she's too dull and seems a bit rigid. Would you like me to pick a few interesting ones for you to take into the mansion as concubines? I think Hua Yuan, the daughter of the Hua family, is quite good. Hua Yuan, the one Mu Chen likes. She is the niece of the empress, and originally, the position of crown princess should have been hers, seeing the power of my family growing ever stronger. My father and mother had no choice but to leave me behind to protect everyone. The empress, seeing that her matchmaking efforts had failed, had no choice but to give up. All these years, only I have known that Mu Chen truly loves Hua Yuan, the portrait hanging behind the landscape painting in the study, the letter tucked inside the 4 books. At 16, Mu Chen took the initiative to propose marriage to me, but on our wedding night, the strong floral scent on him was somewhat overwhelming. Walking on, we arrived at Shenzhen. I visited many places, taking in all the scenery I hadn't seen before, the bustling streets, the babbling brooks. I never tired of watching it all. To my surprise, the next morning, I suddenly received a letter from Mu Chen. Though I do not know why you did this. Since we have already parted ways, let us go our separate paths. I write this letter to ease the Empress Dowager's worries. Take care. These 2 short sentences were all that remained of the affection between him and me. I threw the letter into the brazier without hesitation, the flickering flames burning my past to ashes. When I reached the inn, I still wrote a reply to the Empress Dowager. After all, from the time I entered the palace at 10 until now at 23, she was the only one within those palace gates who truly treated me with sincerity. When I first entered the imperial palace, I was dark-skinned and small. Hardly looking like the daughter of a wealthy family. Everyone dislikes me, resents me, yet they all fear me. It was the Empress Dowager who took the initiative to take me in and raise me in her palace. Mornings were for etiquette, afternoons for studying. She transformed me from a rough child into a refined lady, saying, if you want to go out, you must learn the rules. Thinking and thinking, I fell into a deep sleep. But this sleep was anything but restful. I had many dreams of the past. At the age of 8, held by my father while sitting on a horse, the bow and arrow in my hand had already brought me several trophies. At the age of 10, the front lines were in crisis. My parents came to my room in the middle of the night, saying the front was dangerous and that as a girl, I would be safer staying at home. Before dawn the next day, the army set off in a grand procession. I lay in bed with my eyes tightly shut, yet tears still uncontrollably streamed from the corners of my eyes. The once lively courtyard has become desolate, leaving only me behind. At the age of 12, Mu Chen stood in the sunlight, pointing at me and saying, "Why her?" The door was banging loudly. I was jolted awake from my dream and got out of bed irritably to answer the door. The person at the door was dressed luxuriously. Unlike an ordinary servant from the common folk, "Your Highness, the Crown Princess, I have finally found you." This was someone from the palace. "Miss Ju, what can I do for you?" The man hurriedly pulled a letter from his pocket. "Lord Mu's birthday gift for the Crown Prince has gone missing. He sent me post-haste to ask where you put it." I took the letter. Its contents were simply asking where my things were, a handmade pendant, which I had accompanied Murongyu in making, not long ago. I was sitting in the courtyard, learning to carve with my head bowed, helping Murongyu complete the birthday gift he had prepared. However, there was a very deep crack on the pendant, making it no longer suitable to be given as a gift. Gazing at the bustling street scene below, I softly replied to the servant, "I am no longer the Crown Princess. Go back and tell Murongyu that the pendant has been shattered by his own hands, and I am no longer his mother. I hope he will no longer send people to look for me, nor write me letters. If possible, I wish to never see him or his father again. I do not want there to be a next time with this stalking. This is for Mu Chen to hear." I gave him a tip and sent him on his way. It was truly heartbreaking to say such words to the child I had risked my life to bring into this world. Murongyu was becoming more and more like Mu Chen, with that innate sense of superiority and indifference, which made me love him in a conflicted way, yet dislike him at the same time. At first, Mu Chen was extremely resistant to this marriage. He didn't dare to confront his father directly, so he focused on how to drive me out of the palace. He thought that as long as he bullied me enough, I would slink back home in disgrace, but in reality, I wanted to leave this place more than anyone. Foolish me passively accepted all the humiliations, hoping for the same purpose as foolish him. After I was pushed into the water and nearly lost my life, the Empress Dowager punished me severely. She said, "A daughter of a military family, humiliated to such an extent, how do you have the face to face your brave family members fighting on the front lines?" I was punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall for the time it takes an incense stick to burn. That evening, the Empress Dowager brought medicine to my bedchamber. Don't be afraid, as long as I live, you will be safe. From then on, Mu Chen and I began a love-hate entanglement. Occasionally, the Empress would see us and take me away for punishment. Every time the stick was about to strike my bottom, the Empress Dowager would arrive just in time. With minimal effort, she would whisk me away. This continued until I was 16 and Mu-chan was 20. That year, I was lured into the deep mountains on a stormy night, with thunder and lightning, accompanied by falling rocks, creating an eerie and terrifying atmosphere. When Mu Chen found me, the kerosene lamp in his hand had long since gone out. He carried me, feverish and unconscious, running all the way. In my daze, his anxious shouts were piercingly loud. Ju Qingyu, you must not fall asleep, we're almost there, Ju Qingyu. You haven't yet achieved your wish to marry me, you can't die. I was unconscious for dozens of days in a row, and during that time, I often heard Mu-chan's voice by my ear. And the imperial physicians sighing again and again. Fortunately, I woke up. Later, Mu-chan suddenly requested the emperor's decree to marry me. I ignored the calm, unruffled depths of his downcast eyes, as if he were performing a ritual that had to be completed, so we got married. Not long after, as everyone wished, we had a child. Mu Rongyu was adored by everyone from the moment he was born. Even the usually stern empress often came to my palace to see the child. They all regarded him as the future crown prince, requiring the same education as the heir apparent, so he poured out that bowl of osmanthus soup, just like his father, becoming a replica of the crown prince. I wonder what this father and son were really thinking. Just a week. The messenger servant appeared at the inn again. Miss Ju, the crown prince sent me to deliver a message to you. He is still having me followed. A sense of unspeakable powerlessness filled my heart. Throughout our 8 years of marriage, he was cold and distant, always aloof like a stranger sharing the same inn. We barely even spoke to each other. Now, just a few days after our separation, he has sent his servant to relay messages twice. In the past, whenever I sent a servant to look for him, he would have his attendants casually dismiss them. Letter after letter was written. I only saw my stationery diminish, but never saw the letter box gain a single one more. Now, it seems he has forgotten the past as if it never was. The Crown Prince asks Miss Ju how the sobering soup was made in the past. Lord Mu has been running a slight fever lately. How did you use to help him recover, or at least make him feel better? I struggled to contain my anger, trying not to involve innocent people. Tell Muchen that he and I have already parted ways. We should go our separate ways and each take care. I am not a cook. If he needs sobering soup, he can find a proper cook to make it. The child is sick, and talking to me more won't help. If he's not in a hurry to find a doctor, why is he seeking attention from me? After venting, I went inside and wrote a letter. I don't know what you really want. Maybe it's unwillingness, maybe it's habit, but Muchen, we grew up together. I cherish our past and don't want to hurt what we once had. We are already divorced. Please don't disturb my life anymore. Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince. After sending the servant away, I knew it was time to move on. I rode my horse northward. No matter how far I ran, if Muchuan wanted to find me, he still could. I never expected Muchuan and Murongyu to send me messages so often. Rather than lingering affections, I prefer to believe they were simply struggling to adjust. Upon arriving in Yangcheng, I settled in at a farmstead. They owned thousands of acres of fertile land, working from sunrise to sunset. During this time, I decided to live alongside them. When I first mentioned wanting to stay at the farm for a few days, Mu Chen said it wouldn't be convenient for him to go. His friends laughed and said, "This is really beneath your status, Zhu Qingyu, as the crown prince. It's too embarrassing for you to plough the fields." I smiled and didn't say anything more. It was just a whim at the time. The royal family would never allow me to act so recklessly. Looking back now, it seems so simple. The branches of freedom have long since sprouted. Why compare identities when accompanied by mountains and rivers? On the first day of work, I rose early with everyone. The morning came with faint sunlight, and the cool breeze felt quite pleasant on the skin. Working in the fields was indeed a new experience for me. In no time, I learned how to transplant rice seedlings. The repetitive motions left my mind with plenty of spare time. Mud clings to the calves, yet it doesn't feel sticky at all. Small fish and shrimp dart around the feet. No one knows where their home is. Little fish, swim quickly. Freedom lies in every direction. Farm women live out in the fields. They seem to be not very talkative, yet he could talk eloquently about flowers, plants, and trees, discussing herbs, which flowers were beautiful, and how long certain trees had been planted. Occasionally, someone would crack a joke or two, making everyone burst into laughter. At noon, someone would call out that it was time to go home and cook, and gradually, everyone would head back. The family I live with is named Lee, a household of 4, though not wealthy or noble. They are content and happy, warm and harmonious. I eat, live, and work alongside them. They quickly came to regard me as one of their own. The incident happened on the day of grain in ear. As I bent down to reach the seedlings by the ridge, a sudden sharp pain shot through my ankle. A green bamboo viper was coiled among the calamus bushes, its fangs glinting coldly for a fleeting moment. Don't fall asleep, you, don't fall asleep. Qioniang carried me on her back and ran toward the village entrance. Bare feet tread over the gravel path, bloodstains winding like cinnabar talismans. I lie on Qioniang's sweat-drenched back, hearing my own heartbeat mingled with sobs. Torches form a long dragon in pursuit, with Uncle Wang the hunter leading the way with a pine torch. Dr. Lee stumbles along with his medicine chest on his back, and even Granny Sun, blind at the village entrance, holds bundles of mugwort, fumigate the wound. That's how we treated it when my husband got bitten by a 5-step snake back in the day. Elder sister, have some candy. Xiaoman stuffed the melted malt candy into her mouth while Mingtang was burning with a high fever. Taidan crouched outside the door, clutching his slingshot. It's all my fault for not driving the snakes out of the field at noon. Zhao Daju kept his head down weaving bamboo baskets, saying he'd sell them to buy ginseng to nourish the girl. At 10 years old, abandoned, I didn't cry when I entered the palace alone, filled with fear and unease. At 16, teased and pushed into the water, nearly drowning, I didn't cry. At 23, during the divorce, I didn't cry, but lying in bed, listening to the faint murmuring voices outside, tears uncontrollably slipped from the corners of my eyes. Don't be afraid, you, everything's fine. That's right, with us here, nothing will happen to you. Use the best medicine. Don't worry about the cost, we all have money. With their help, I successfully snatched my life back from the jaws of the venomous snake. In the evening, I sat by the door watching the sunset. The golden sunlight at the edge of the sky slowly faded, and a new day was about to arrive. I always knew the world outside was far better than the one inside. I settled down here for good, rediscovering some of my old hobbies, for example, horse racing, hunting, for example, martial arts, kuju, ancient Chinese football. Before entering the palace, I was always a carefree and lively person. I love everything full of vitality. Once inside the palace walls, I lost the right to choose for myself. Freedom became a distant dream. Qioniang's family kept a large dog named Sui Sui. It had a coat of soft, short yellow fur and large, bright, determined eyes. Every time it runs, its ears twitch, like a soldier with a natural cuteness. It really enjoys playing with me. When I play soccer or shoot arrows, it always looks ready to spring into action. Time and again, it helps me retrieve them. Dogs are very patient and emotionally intelligent animals. They never neglect you. A dog knows who treats it well and returns that kindness. Goodbye to Muchen. It was he who appeared in the village. I was just about to take Sui Sui to bring some osmanthus porridge to Qioniang. As I stepped out of the house, I saw Muchen standing at the village entrance. Behind him was a servant, and by his side was Murongyu, who was nervously staring at Sui Sui beside me. What are you here for? I sat across from Muchen and asked him coldly. Murongyu sat on the other side, frowning as she watched Sui Sui gnawing on a bone. Muchen looked me over. Qingyu, you've lost some weight, don't answer what wasn't asked. He was silent for a moment. It was our son who wanted to see you. I couldn't very well stop him. Could I? Mu Chen, didn't you understand the message I had the servant deliver to you? We are already divorced, and Mu Rongyu is no longer my child. Do you not understand? Mu Chen pursed his lips. But Mu Rongyu is still young. He can't be without a mother. He'll be ridiculed by others. I smiled. You're the crown prince. Who would dare ridicule him? Besides, he'll have a new mother sooner or later. But it won't be me anymore. Do you understand? Then I showed the father and son out. Mu Rongyu was unwilling to go back, standing at the door with a pitiful look, staring at me, opening the mouth as if wanting to say something. I took Sui Sui and shut the door firmly. I'm afraid if I look at him like this for too long, my heart will soften. After all, he is my child, born after 10 months of pregnancy. A child I gave half my life to bring into this world. When I was a child, I refused the nanny's help. Feed him, hold him, soothe him. The first word he uttered was mother. He was timid, crying at the sight of anyone, only calming down and behaving when I held him. But later, everyone saw his intelligence and cleverness. They took him away from me, treating him as the future crown prince. educating him in the manner of all heirs. Children are like blank slates. Their understanding comes entirely from the nurturing of adults. Whatever anyone told him, he would believe it and act accordingly. As he grew older, he gradually became unwilling to be close to me. He began to grow cold and distant, treating me just like Mu-chan did. The former mother became mother, and he even addressed me as mother when speaking. Mother, you need not teach me. Father has hired a special tutor to instruct me. Mother, you should read more books. All the imperial aunts can write poetry and paint, but you cannot. Mother, you are too dull. Unlike Auntie Hua, who always gives me all sorts of new ideas, I told the villagers everything that happened before the divorce. Mu-chen changed his strategy. He often waited for me on my way to work in the morning, standing by the luxurious carriage, as if he hadn't slept all night. When he saw me approaching, he quickly handed me a steaming breakfast. Eat a little, it's all your favorite food. Sometimes, they would also bring Murongyu to wait at the village entrance, hoping to see Sui Sui and me going out to play. I walked past them without even a glance, never looking their way. The villagers didn't treat them well either. Seeing them come every day, they often asked me about it. I answered truthfully. He already has someone in his heart. He's only doing this for his reputation now. They fell silent. My hatred for Mu-chan grew even stronger. Every time they saw the father and son, they would send me a message, telling me not to go out. I thanked them for their kindness, told them it was fine. They were already in my past. Mu-chan is about to ascend the throne. There are still many things waiting for him to attend to. He can't keep pestering me here forever. Many times, I've seen people come looking for him, urging him to return to the palace. He has been away for too long, and with the emperor in poor health, the court is in turmoil. Sometimes Mu-rongyu would also secretly go behind Mu-chen's back and have his attendant bring him to me. Then, without saying a word, he would follow behind me with small steps. I would walk Sui Sui in front, giving him water and feeding him small snacks. Sui Sui wagged his tail excitedly, barking woof woof at me. Mu-rongyu stood by watching, saying nothing. His eyes were filled with anger. He wasn't as good as Mu-chen at hiding his emotions. Once, when Anan went to retrieve my bow and arrows, Mu-rongyu also wanted to go, and in his haste, he tripped and fell on the sandy path. He finally couldn't hold back and burst into tears. The attendant helped him check his wound, and with reddened eyes, he looked at me. Mother, it hurts so much. Mu-rongyu rarely cried, always trying to imitate Mu-chen's calm and indifferent demeanor. Perhaps it was because he had accumulated so much grievances in his heart this time that he looked at me, crying loudly. I watched him quietly, not intending to make any move. The attendant picked him up, said goodbye to me, and took him away. In the past, what I feared most was Mu-rongyu falling ill, as each illness would last a long time. For as long as he was ill, I couldn't eat or sleep well. But now, there's not a ripple of emotion in my heart. My life now won't be affected by them. A while ago, I signed up for a horse race. Even though I might not come in first, I still prepared seriously for a long time. The race is scheduled in 10 days. All the villagers came to cheer me on. The intense pre-race preparation is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. When I was a child, I thought my adult life would be like this. Never expected to take such a long detour. The iron hooves of war horses pounded the yellow earth with thunderous force, the howling wind mingling with the clamor of voices. The white horse's mane brushed against the pink scar on my wrist. It was from when I got lost at 16 and was scratched by a tree branch in the mountains. The cheers of the villagers echoed in my ears, and my name was heard by everyone. Thump, the gong roared, and the match was over. I stand at the top with sweat and a smile. Champion. I walked out of the crowd. Surrounded by my fellow villagers, Mu-chen held Mu-rongyu's hand. Standing in the midst of the bustling crowd, Mu-chen's attendant held a fine set of jewelry in his hands. The moment he saw me, Mu-chen nodded at me, a hint of a smile in his eyes. He said softly, "Congratulations." Mu-rongyu's flushed little face was full of excitement as she waved at me and shouted loudly, "Mom, you're amazing." The strangers around us probably thought we were a family of 3. They smiled as they looked at us. But I just felt annoyed. The villagers saw them and half surrounded me, not giving them a chance to get close to me, but they still chased me to the door of my house. What can't be avoided must eventually be faced. Qingyu, so you know how to ride a horse. Why haven't I heard you mention it before? Mother, you're amazing. You have no idea how dashing you look when you're racing horses. I pretended not to hear, not slowing my pace in the slightest. Seeing me like this, Mu-chen grabbed my wrist and asked in a low voice, "Qingyu, let's have a meal together as a family of 3. We miss you so much." Mu-rongyu looked at me with an expectant expression. urging the attendant to hand me the jewelry. I withdrew my hand and pushed the jewelry away. No need, you all enjoy it yourselves. Mu Chen, as the crown prince, hasn't returned to the palace for so long. A decree on paper summoned me into the palace by the empress, unable to defy the imperial order. I had no choice but to pack my belongings and go. Gazing at the dignified and elegant woman before me, I couldn't help but feel sympathy for her. Like her, I had entered the palace at a young age, a daughter of a military family. She is not like me, who can meet someone as sincere as Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. After the Battle of Shiliang, many of her clansmen died on the battlefield. Reaching her current position and silencing the endless gossip has been achieved through her intelligence and strategy. Qingyu, I know you and Chenna have already separated, but after all, you've known each other for so long and share a child. Could you listen to my advice and stay in the palace? Give Chenna a chance. And give yourself a chance too. The Empress sat there, her expression somewhat overlapping with Mu Chen's aloof demeanor. Your Majesty, how long have you been in the palace? She fell into thought, remaining silent for a long while. Well, I can't quite remember either. I have been in the palace for 13 years, and out of the palace for 1 month. In just this 1 month, everything I have seen and heard is what I have always longed for. I walk through the fields, where the wheat grows lush and green. I once thought of staying in the palace for the rest of my life, but I cannot do it. I cannot endure such a life even for 1 more day. I beg your Majesty to grant me this wish. A crack appeared in her expression, but it quickly returned to its usual composure. With just one glance, I knew she had long shed the shell of her youth. Now she was the Empress herself. That night, when my parents summoned me to the palace, they used the word notification. No one asked for my opinion, no one said goodbye to me. They clearly loved me before, so how could they stop loving me overnight? I couldn't find the answer. And if I stayed in the palace, I would never find it. Your Highness, I can no longer find a reason to stay. The longing and resentment toward family had long faded away with each passing day. Gone with them was affection. The same held true for Mu Chen. The youthful flutter of hearts began on a rainy night at 16. The image of Mu Chen's anxiousness to save me remains vivid. The young man's voice was not as cold as it is now. After I left, Mu Chen emerged from behind the screen. Chenna, your mother has done her best. That evening, Mu Chen found me at the inn. Qingyu, is there really no way to turn things around? If you are willing to give me another chance, I will surely make you the Empress. I remained expressionless, and seeing my silence, he seemed to grow despondent. It was unclear how long he had gone without proper rest, as dark circles hung heavily beneath his eyes. Whether you believe it or not, I do love you. I don't believe it. Once upon a time, he said to me. Whether you believe it or not, I have someone in my heart. You'd better leave the palace as soon as possible. On the night of the grand wedding, he emerged from the Empress's chamber, carrying the scent of alcohol and an unknown fragrance. Lying in bed, he kept mumbling apologies. I'm sorry to whom? It goes without saying, even in bed, he never looked at my face. Your Highness the Crown Prince, there's no need for this. I am now, in a way, fulfilling your wish with Miss Hua. He anxiously explained. There is no Miss Hua. The one I've always liked is you. I only ever loved you. I once had expectations for Muchen. He fulfilled his due responsibilities towards me. Remembering the foods I loved to eat, he would notice what kind of clothes suited me. He just wouldn't chat with me warmly, acting like a puppet going through programmed motions. I then placed my hopes on Mu Rongyu. I considered him my only solace in the palace, yet he too became another Mu Chen. I believe Mu Chen is speaking from the heart at this moment. Perhaps he truly loves me, but in his heart, many things come before me. That's why he often overlooks my feelings, whether intentional or not. The harm he has caused me is real. I am not one who forgets the pain once the wound has healed. Forgetting the pain of the past is the root of my next suffering. Mu Chen, let's each take care of ourselves from now on. He is the Crown Prince, raised with constant praise and adoration since childhood. He wouldn't give up his great empire and supreme power for my sake. The last time we met was still in the woods. Lost once again, I encountered Muchen in the darkness. You're still the same. Qingyu, you need me. No, I shook my head firmly. I don't need you. You girl. A call came from afar. As the scattered night lights illuminated the trees on the mountain, voices calling my name came from all directions. Mu Chen, I no longer need your meager love. Do you understand? I'm here. Without hesitation, I turned and walked away, following the sound. For 13 years, I kept searching for evidence that others loved me. Searching for freedom, I suffered through countless hardships. But in the next 13 years, along the long and winding road, I will save myself from the fire and water in time. since I am a peach and plum tree, why worry about not having a path beneath me? Extra Chapter 1, The Empress Dowager. I was born into a military family and grew up galloping across battlefields with my father. I never believed that women were meant to be confined within walls. As my family's influence grew, rumors of my father's rebellion began to circulate throughout the court. Our family has been loyal for generations. Yet the emperor does not trust us. At 15, I could not resist the proposal from the court ministers to take me into the imperial harem. My father sent me into the palace. I thought my sacrifice would bring peace and safety to my family, but soon after, they falsely accused my father of treason. Execution of 9 familial generations. The emperor, who favored me at the time, protected me, and I could no longer leave the palace. Men consider themselves the center of the world. At the critical moment, they would have a woman sell her body to save a life. They neither acknowledge the woman's usefulness nor their own uselessness. Later, a girl in the same situation as me came to the palace. She was too young and could only be betrothed to Prince Jing. Struggling, angry, restless, she was once a delicate flower, but men tore her apart petal by petal. I didn't have much interaction with her. Later, my experiences were replayed one by one in her life, but she is more resilient than I. Like a flower blooming on the edge of a cliff, with her intelligence, she assisted Prince Jing to become the emperor he is today. I asked her, "Why do you strive so hard?" She said, "In this palace, only by standing at the highest point can one have equal freedom. I do not wish for anyone to live a life like ours again. This magnificent palace is like a cage, trapping my heart and confining her body. The palace that so many wish to enter is nothing but a shackle." Extra Chapter 2, The Empress. When I was a child, a lame monk came to my home to tell my fortune. He said, in stillness facing the palace, embracing the sun and moon, with authority overseeing the 6 courtyards, guarding the Kuan Ning Palace, Father frowned and gave him 10 taels of silver. I didn't understand, only knowing that from then on I had to learn many things, practicing etiquette, reviewing books, painting, playing the qin, playing chess, and so on. I often cried and told my father that I didn't want to study. But he no longer indulged me as he used to. At the age of 12, my brother wrote policy essays alongside the imperial princes. My brother was a rough and uneducated man. He knew nothing at all. Seeing the people around him mock him, I couldn't bear it. Disregarding her mother's pull, she broke through the crowd and rushed before the hall. The Yangcheng region is suffering from famine, and people are panicked, fearing scenes of rebellion and cannibalism. With just one glance, I knew how to respond. "Your Majesty, I have something to say." Though I hesitate to speak it, my father rushed forward to pull me away, but the emperor stopped him and allowed me to speak. "I propose, first, to open the granaries and distribute grain to help Yangcheng overcome this crisis. Second, establish charity granaries at the village level, encouraging each village to set up its own. A portion of the annual harvest should be stored in these granaries for emergency relief during unexpected disasters. Third, organize charitable donations from court officials to raise disaster relief funds. Distribute these funds to increase grain purchase prices. Once the grain supply is sufficient, release the government granary stocks at low prices. This will not only ensure Yancheng's food supply but also curb hoarding and profiteering by merchants." The emperor looked very pleased. But my father's brow remained furrowed. A month later, I was sent into the palace and betrothed to Prince Jing. Later, my father was convicted of treason, and the entire family was not spared. The letter that came from the estate became my father's final entrustment to me. "Live well, and be sure to hide your talents." As my father expected, I gradually buried myself in the crowd, becoming the kind of woman everyone desired. Later, the crown princess gave birth to a boy. To consolidate power within his own family, the emperor even betrothed my unborn daughter to him. My daughter should be the happiest person in the world, laugh when she wants to laugh, cry when she wants to cry. If she wishes to wander the world, I will allow it, even if it means fighting. I will fight to pave a way for my child. Later on, another girl was sent into the palace. She was only 10 years old, even younger than I had been at the time. She looked somewhat frail, with large, dark eyes full of unease. Watching her being passed around from one palace to another, I couldn't bear it. I begged the Empress Dowager to take her in. Later, if she wished to leave the palace, I would let her have her way. This was the path she chose to take. We are different, and we need not be the same. After the emperor passed away, I overcame all opposition and finally ascended to the highest seat of power. Looking down at the ministers kneeling before me, I issued the first decree. By the grace of heaven, the emperor proclaims, from this day forward, Women shall hold equal status with men, and may participate in the imperial examinations, may serve as court officials, and may choose whether to marry or not. By imperial decree, women's freedom has never been granted by men, but lifted by generations of women supporting one another. The rock soars 90,000 miles on the wind. May the wind never cease, carrying this humble boat to the three immortal mountains.